I got some notes here because I want to make sure I cover everything. So forgive me for looking down. Yeah, so great example from 2019, the Africa Cup of Nations. We partnered with Orange. And I think it illustrates two things that hopefully come out later in the presentation. One is the power and the return that you can get through RCS. But also, this was in 2019, right? So I think also what will come out in this is that I think they, and as a number of the other presenters presented, there's opportunity here, and the way we need to kind of dissect how to approach it. I think Tim and Divya did a great job of kind of illustrating that, and hopefully I can kind of just lend my voice to some of the points that they were making. So, so again, first of all, my name is Craig Lennon. I work at Google. I do partnerships in the RCS space. I am really privileged to be here. Thank you again, Dario and team. I always love coming to these events. Dario and team, we always feel so well cared for, including, not the least of which, last night I got to watch in London, England, on what seemed like a private TV, the U.S. national team advanced to the round of 16. So really excited about that. Okay, so how do I do this? Okay. So as I thought about the content for today, I thought there would be for this audience, two interesting areas to cover. One is kind of an update generally on where we're at with RCS and messages by Google. And I think any of you who attended the MEFS event in cooperation with us in Ireland, it's really just a continuation of what's going on with RCS and, like I said, messages by Google. And then the second is really to kind of translate that into why what we're doing there and the investments we're making matters for business messaging in RCS. And really, I thought maybe it's the holiday spirit, but I thought as I thought about how to kind of bring that content to this audience, I thought about maybe reflecting a little bit on kind of the investments we've already made to get here. Not in a nostalgic way, but in the way to illustrate why they're important and what they kind of get us. And really as an ecosystem. And in 2016, really Google set out to really what you're looking at here is kind of I don't know if a lot of people remember what messages on an Android device, kind of the application that you endeavored to use to do that back prior to 2016, but it was kind of the default system client on the device that upgraded basically with either device upgrades or over-the-air updates, right? There was not a very good surface space for users, and really the initiative that Google took into the messaging space was to solve that, right? That we really set out to make the messaging experience on Android devices better for users, period. And I think that's important context because a lot of what I'll go on to talk about as far as our investments in this space really tackle a lot of the issues that users face in an upgraded messaging experience. But I'll talk a little bit about some of the features, but really, again, I wanted to point out that there's more than just features that go into that. Like, it also creates a common experience. It also creates an ability to upgrade that experience very fast, right? It becomes a surface space for innovation. So if there are things like, which I'll talk about in a later slide, end-to-end encryption or features that we can bring to users, we can now do so at great speed and users get the benefit more immediately. And again, I think that also will apply to the business messaging space. So some of those concepts will be brought into the business messaging space as well. But I think it's important to know that that's built on a foundation of what we've really been doing since 2016. This isn't something you just arrive at overnight, that we have hundreds of millions of users having a great experience and being able to message them on business. This is all earned. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, and then as I talk about some of the more recent feature updates on messages, again, because we're so focused on the user, the way we like to think about some of the objectives around what those investments get us is it's really around some of these key concepts for users. Is it a safe messaging experience? Is it helpful? And is it delightful for users? Again, because I think those are all primitives for us to then earn the ability to engage those users in a business messaging context. So now for the demo gods to not shine well on us. So I have a video. Let's see how it goes. That's the start of the video. One more? Yeah. Okay, so this video was part of an October announcement we made around a number of features that we brought to market. We did so in our keywords blog. So, Google has a keywords blog post where we post about everything from Android to ads, and Messages has its own designated space. So you can find that video there. And again, it's from October and it highlights a number of the features, but I thought I'd maybe drill down on a few and to why, again, they're important in demonstrating kind of safe, helpful, delightful, right? And so again, you can see here kind of some features that maybe were announced or implemented earlier in the year, and then some that came more recently in October. And so I'll quickly go through some of those. So again, in the context of safe, right? Earlier this year, we announced end-to-end encryption. We have a number of client-side or user-side spam protection that exists within the client. And this now also includes things around block and report on business messaging. So again, applicable for this room. But again, we have a very robust set of spam protections for users within the Messages for Google Client. More recently, also in a handful of countries today, we're working on this concept of an organized inbox, right? So you can kind of think of similar to the way things like Gmail work, is it can kind of separate for you what is a personal versus business engagement right in the inbox. So to help users with clutter in their inbox. So not just protect them from spam, but also go a step further and help them organize kind of the way they engage with the messages. And then most recently, again, in the October announcement of features, we have things like starred messages, right? So again, in a very similar way that you can do in other surfaces like email, you can kind of star certain messages or conversations to be easily recalled later. So again, all designed to help users from a safety perspective. Again, further into helpful, these are a number of features that we talked about earlier this year. A lot of smarts, kind of injecting a lot of smarts into the application. Higher quality video, and the ability to kind of do more within the application, like schedule messages for not to be sent immediately, but at a later date. And then building on that helpful theme in some of the more recent feature announcements, things like conversation threading, things like transcription of voice messages. So I'm not a big proponent of it, but apparently people much younger than I do a lot of voice texting to each other. And so the transcription of that, again, is a great benefit for users within the app. Earlier this year, we talked a lot about how the application can interpret iMessage reactions. And so we were able to kind of keep users in the conversation better with their iMessage friends by interpreting those reactions and not having kind of this long thread of so-and-so liked and so-and-so hearted. We've now also taken the step to be able to allow Messages users to add their reactions to SMS as well in the client. So you can think about it, it's kind of working in both directions now. Things like picture-in-picture for YouTube content within the Messages app. And again, starring messages at an individual level. Again, all features designed to help users to really get things done within the application without having to leave the application and to do more within messages. And then lastly, along what I would call really going even a step further is what I would call delightful experiences for users. And really the concept here, kind of the common thread across these, is really give users the ability to use the application wherever they want, right? So whether that means across different devices or in wherever there's Wi-Fi, members of my team and within the Android partnerships group have worked to actually, in October, we announced a partnership with United Airlines to basically add messages chat as a automatically supported ability when on a United flight, right? So again, just leveraging into giving users the ability to be more delighted and more helped by the application itself. The last feature that I'll talk about is, these are all really great whiz bang kind of very obvious features, but one inherent feature in Android messages itself is reach, right? So one of the other things that we continue to invest in with our OEM partnerships, our carrier partnerships, is just getting this experience into more people's hands. So that's not lost on us as a kind of core foundational feature. So while all these things are great, and end-to-end encryption is great, and all the other features I outlined, they're only as great as the amount of people that can actually access them. So that's also another area I thought worth highlighting, that we continue to do that. Hundreds of millions of users around the world have access to chat through RCS. And in many markets, there's a fair bit of density, right? There's a number of markets that have 50% of all smartphones already have this capability, right? So we're starting to get a very significant canvas of users interacting with these features. As we add new ones, it goes out to all of them immediately, right? So we're starting to get, that's what has me most excited, is we really have this really rich contextual surface that we can innovate on more quickly. And again, I believe that can all be applied into a business messaging space, because through these features and these delightful, helpful experiences, we are earning the right of the user to access them and engage them in that way. And as I mentioned, a big thanks to all of our partners on the OEM and carrier side in that last feature of extending the reach, right? It really started years ago with our OEM and carrier partnerships and continues. We could not get kind of that last feature and into the hands of more users without those partnerships. So, okay, so that's the update on messages by Google. But I thought that was important. It's mainly the one thing I can add to this room. You're all experts in the omni-channel. I have a lot to learn in this room from your group, but I thought that was something I could offer as an update from RCS from the Google. And now what I'll try and do is explain how we think that, what's earned through a lot of the investments we're making in messages by Google can be leveraged into the business messaging space. And again, this is a space where, we have great partnerships and a lot of innovation happening to allow this to happen, right? So this is not something Google is doing. This is something that we're working with many folks in this room to make possible and to innovate. So thanks to those partners. And those partners are working with really great brands that we've all talked about earlier. And those brands really run the gamut of different industries, different critical user journeys, right? Like there's really a great breadth of experiences here that are being enabled. And again, really through the help of our partners. So thank you again. And as I mentioned, this summer in Ireland, we talked a lot about kind of the experiences that brands get when leveraging the platform. And I thought it was important to highlight that here, because while RCS has some challenges, or RBM has some challenges, we'll talk about those. One of the things that is obvious to me, was obvious this summer, and hopefully a lot of the folks who attended that also were able to see this, but independent of the business outcome, that you're trying to deliver as a brand or as their partner, as aggregate partner, almost universally what we see is that's RBM makes that possible, right? Whether the outcome you're trying to drive is an increase in click-through rate or an increase in revenue, or just generally purchases, or increased remarketing response, or bill payments, or app downloads, or just as we talked about the RCS Cup of Nations just wanted to grow subscribers. They are all increased when using RBM. So I think I'm not saying we can close the book on it, but essentially, good till canceled, RBM makes the upgrade of SMS to RBM makes it better, right? And that really, we can continue to prove it. And I think it is important for us to continue to highlight these cases when they come around. And we have a lot of work with our partners around doing so. But as we do, all we're really doing is adding to the dossier of what brands should understand is that this is a very powerful channel, and it will improve whatever the business outcome that you're looking to do. Now, let's talk about how we go about doing that, right? And then the last one I would mention, and this is through some of the work we've done with some of our partners, Out There Media, and their customer Unilever. I mean, we're even discovering business outcomes that you wouldn't naturally associate with a messaging channel, right? Attention value, right? When was the last time you sent an SMS and thought about how much the user paid attention or how long they engaged with that SMS? It's not a thing. This conversational service is innovating to that, right? So I think there's the things at the top are the things we know we want to improve. I think we will find that this list gets longer and longer and longer over time on things that this conversational channel can improve that we don't even yet know it will. So this is where I was really happy to see some of the points that Divya made earlier and Tim was making around, one is it meant my slides weren't going to go to waste, but mainly it really just hammered home the same point that I want to make, which is we talk a lot about the difference between SMS and RCS, but they're really not two binary states, right? Here on the left-hand side, you have what an SMS looks like, and on the right-hand side, you have a really rich conversational engagement happening in our RBM with all the features listed on the right. But these are, and if you look at this, you would assume that they are two separate channels with very different capabilities, and so there's a very large leap from one to the other. And the point is that these are not binary states. And really, they're just 2 points on a continuum that any brand or any business can engage in that continuum based upon where they already are on that continuum and where they want to get potentially, right? Maybe all they ever want to do is just put the security and logo around OTP, and they can do that on RBM at one end of the spectrum. But maybe over time that evolves, right, to something more that they want to do in that engagement. And the great thing about the platform and what we've earned through the surface that we're providing users is that those outcomes can be sought on any point in this continuum. Now, and I think, as I was showing before, we have some great examples of implementations at all phases of this, right? The Africa Cup of Nations, very complex, highly engaging, highly automated, lots of rich cards, lots of features, lots of integrations, live match scores, that kind of stuff. All the way down to where we have multinational brands just simply upgrading the SMS tracking notifications that they send or OTPs that they send, right? And then everything in between. So I think that was a point that I wanted to make, and I was really happy to see that I think that resonates across a number of the biggest players in the market. And the way we think about this journey, as I was kind of talking about it, is that, as you decide to upgrade kind of what is existing SMS campaigns to RCS where possible, you get benefit immediately, right? You get rich branding, you get verified senders, you get security, read receipts, delivery receipts, and like that all comes in that initial phase, even at the lower, less complex parts of the spectrum. But it also then puts you on a path that gets you to where those really rich, more engaging experiences can happen. And really, this is this is a journey that a brand and their partners, folks in this room, will take. But what I can tell you is the infrastructure supports this today, right? So whether you want to start all the way here on the right, or you want to start somewhere on the left and work your way to the right, or you want to live somewhere on the left, these are all possible in today's infrastructure. So again, sharing kind of from my perspective what we think the opportunity is here and why we can talk about a lot of the really rich, engaging examples, but we should actually be looking at the complete spectrum. And lastly, there's a handful of slides here I have that just kind of go through what kind of some of the more generic use cases look like around delivery, reminders that can go from something that looks like what is maybe happening on SMS today to something more conversational to something far more rich. Travel updates, right? These are all things that exist today in the existing SMS world. I'm sure everyone in this room is very familiar with them as a consumer and maybe in their business. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, because I think anytime I've participated in a MEF forum, one of the things that always comes up from an RCS perspective is, how do we deal with the non-ubiquitous adoption of RCS? And we always, I think we've always been very clear on where we stand on what we believe. We're investing significantly in the future of RCS. And I think I would just highlight that we have a campaign that now, really since our last meeting, talks a bit more publicly about, where we stand on that. And so I'd encourage everyone to take a look at that campaign. It's #GetTheMessage, and it talks a lot about why we believe adopting the RCS standard is important. And like I said, it's nothing new from our perspective. We're just getting a little bit more pronounced and public about it in this campaign. So, and I think that's it for me.
Hi, Craig. I have a very lovely honor of managing some of the questions for you. We don't have a lot of time because we are running towards lunch, but so let's start something very, very quickly with you. We see you. Let me come out of a bit of the light and we'll share it. Is it better? Oh, maybe better. Yeah. I'm not branded at any point. That's good. So generally speaking, you're a smiley guy. You're a likable guy. People seem to appreciate that.
Let's end that.
Let's it. Yeah, right. I mean, seriously, you were so happy last night as well about football. Horrible things. Let's see some of those clothes. Let's see. Let's get some of these people hot under the collar. What's not making you happy about the word of the C+ out there? Some of those campaigns, some of those lack of campaigns, engagement. What's wrong?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I think to me in a word, it's speed, right? Speed. I think we as I mentioned, the Africa Cup of Nations was 2019. I think we have a lot of great examples of where RCS RBM is really powerful. But as we continue to kind of move down this journey, I think and I don't think I alone think this. I suspect a lot of folks in this room feel the same way. But I think there's for all the admiration of the opportunity we look at, I think the capturing of it could go faster. And I think so. To me, is we stand ready to help partners and of all types, right, sort through the ability to move faster, right? I mean, again, even in the way that we're investing in the features from a user perspective, right? Things like end-to-end encryption and some of these features that we want to get into user, we want to do it fast, right? We want to, and because that's the way the world works, right? We need to do things in a way that captures the opportunity before it's really too late, or it's not available to us anymore.
Do you feel fast? Do you feel? Is there something else you have to?
In Pellet.
Oh, it's Interpol.
Hi, Craig. We work a lot together, but I'll pose a question here about speed.
Yep.
So I think it's common knowledge that WhatsApp business messaging has blown way past 1 billion messages, billion paid business messages last year.
Yep.
As you look at speed, when do you think paid RCS traffic will cross 1 billion or even 100 million? And what needs to happen what all needs to be driven to reach that goal? Is it this month, this year? Is it next year? Is it the following year? Or is it too late?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question, and unfortunately, like I don't know that I'm the best person to answer it. I don't know that I can answer it. I don't think any one person can answer it. What I would tell you is there are prerequisites to getting to that point, and some of the prerequisites are having a user base that's engaged and then having a technical capability to address those users, having a commercial model that does so. Right. These are all things that I think we're building. And really what I want to highlight is these are our efforts to solve some of those primitives, but largely on a paid commercial, RBM traffic, right. That's a lot of people need to kind of work together to do that. I think the operators, their partners, right. What we're talking about is moving SMS to RCS. The platform exists. It's highly functional. And I just think that, there's a number of folks that have to kind of at speed work through kind of the challenges that get us to that endpoint. But that's one of the reasons I think speed is kind of my initial answer to that, is because I don't see we see the ROI when brands do use it. We see the rich user experience that delights users. We see those things. So those are not challenges. It's some of these other things, and it's really about identifying those things and knocking them out, but doing so kind of in an expedited way.
Well, let me jump in. I see you go. People question and hands up. Enough about you guys. Enough about you. It's all about me now. Okay? Yeah, please. So MEF is running its own conversational commerce channel, and you've all entered your phone number. If not, there are going to be little QR codes you can go to make sure you receive your WhatsApp, SMS, and RCS. Yeah? And thanks, last year we was kindly supported by Infobip. This year it's a .co that helps us. Thanks very much. And all the operators that are making it possible across the globe, because you're coming from so many different countries and making our life very difficult. But at the same time, we have a marketing communication group. We call it Carol. One person. And it comes to a point where what we refer to Carol in our company has to come up with the campaigns, and it's challenging. You invented, as Google, one person, but search, which is a completely new way of thinking about your dynamics of images. You mentioned attention span before as one of a new metric, which you think of. So many things, so much education that is missing out there, because technically we can see that it's happening, but we as a small group need some guidance. So here's my little thing. How am I going to help me now?
Yeah. So I think we were talking about this earlier. I think the need really, as you're kind of identifying it, is, hey, as a business, when I go to implement or adopt these channels, I don't have enough information. I need, what tools are available to me?
Where do I start?
To start this. And I think it goes along with a conversation I was having yesterday around where are, in the implementation process or in the deployment, however you want to, in the factory of making a conversational agent, where are the constraints? And I think we've been very focused on solving a lot of constraints around availability and access. And really what you're saying is, but at the later link in the stage, at the enterprise side, there are going to be constraints there. There's going to be information that needs to be shared, process that needs to be followed. And again, this is not unprecedented in any new channel. Folks when they implemented websites had all kinds of system integrators and documentation that need help. So I agree, it's a gap, and I think largely folks in this room are in great position to solve that, or will be the face to the enterprise to solve that gap. And we as Google absolutely can help provide tools and information to facilitate that.
Fantastic. Our Carol group will work. I'm afraid that I need to stop it now, and I'm sure I'm going to be very popular with all of you. But we are going to have 45 minutes and more. How much are we going to have? 1 hour for lunch? No,
Thank you.
Because it's
Thank you,
YP,
Susan.
then it's
Yeah, Dario,
Susan, this is not.
I'll
fair
meet you
treatment of
outside,
members.
Dario. Great, thank you, Wahid Adam. I'm iTouch, and we have a big focus on the African continent.
Okay.
And I'm quite interested to understand the success of the Africa Cup of Nations, the campaign that you had.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a continent where I guess RCS-enabled phones may be a challenge to begin with, and a little bit behind the curve. How did that turn out?
So I'm not sure of the premise of whether Africa is challenged in this way, right? Like when I think of Africa, I think of a very high degree of Android penetration in most markets, right? It's a very big population that consumes Android. I also think that probably the messages application is pretty widely distributed on a number of those devices, depending on the market. But so I would bet there's quite a bit of users in the African continent. It is important to think of the context of the Africa Cup of Nations and the goals, right? This is in 2019. That might not have been true, right? That there might have been a very sparse distribution of the client. It was shipping on new handsets, but not downloaded by a lot of users. So really, what you have between 2019 and now is device kind of upgrade cycles, right? So that's where you get a lot of the increased penetration. But the goal in 2019 was to kind of stimulate that adoption, ahead of those upgrade cycles, and it was very successful. It was 3x the amount of before the campaign. At the end of the campaign, they had 3x the number of RCS enabled subscribers, and it was just about kind of simply, I maybe had RCS, I engaged with the agent, I showed Dario, he downloaded the application, right? Or they ran a campaign where they directly kind of asked him to take a look so he could participate, and they kind of just leveraged the overall consumer interest in the cup to engage with the content on RCS, and at the end of it, you have a 3x the user base. So I don't know that that's it's still relevant, quite frankly, but back in 2019. You could get that order of magnitude increase in subscribers. Like, if I would suspect that in a lot of African countries today, if you just simply couldn't get 3 to 5x, because that's more than 100% of the market today. So so two things is, one is that was the goal of that particular campaign, but more generally, I think in Africa we have a number of really dense kind of distributions of the application, and they're in a great position to for carriers to begin to monetize the service because of that reach. So I think Africa is actually a great opportunity.
Happy to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my boss over there, and could you give a round of applause to Susan, because she's. And there will be more people, but obviously, James, they're doing a great job. I'm on a diet, so I can stay here for hours, guys. Fine. But is it time for lunch, or before lunch? However, I'm gonna have a lot of things to do, including the first one is I failed abysmally to make him less likable, but I will try again. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Thanks.